Welcome to this episode of UMBC's Mic'd Up podcast. My name is Denise Cardona from the Office of Professional Programs at UMBC. Today we are joined by Rebecca Henry. She is a recent graduate of our Community Leadership Graduate Program. I hope that you enjoy this episode. It's so nice to have you here, Rebecca, on the UMBC Mic'd Up podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful. So you just graduated from community leadership. Is that correct?
That is.
Yeah. What brought you to study community leadership at UMBC?
Yeah, sure. So I actually am a former UMBC employee. So I learned through the program because I was out of the Shriver Center. And so some of my colleagues were actually professors for the program. So they were promoting it and I was seeing it. And I thought that it just really aligned with my professional and personal career goals and life goals, as well as I'm a lifetime learner, a forever student. I can't stay out of school. So it was a program that I could collect under my belt that would just help me further in my career and life.
Yeah, I understand the whole lifelong learner thing. I have constantly just taken workshops, conferences, online classes. I've gone to seminars. There's something about lifelong learning, right? It makes you feel like you are just part of this dynamic nature of living life and learning and absorbing things.
Yes, no, I totally agree.
What is it that you love most about learning? What is it that makes you a lifelong learner?
I think I like keeping my mind busy and incorporating the world is forever changing and growing and there's new information that comes out and I just want to be abreast of that. And a lot of it is truly a lot of the learning that I do. I try to do it so it can better serve the community that I support. So it's really to make me a better advocate and support for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you doing now? Are you still at UMBC as an employee or have you moved on and what are you doing?
Yeah. So actually, after 10 years, I left in August of last year after being with the Choice program for 10 years. And I'm now at Baltimore City Public Schools as a volunteer engagement specialist. And so that has been a different experience transferring from a nonprofit world to city schools, but it's still great because I'm still working with kids and still involved in the community and service. So it's still right aligned with where I'm heading.
Yeah. What do you love most about what you're doing now?
I think I really love getting to still impact the community in schools. And while it might not be through direct service, it's through putting folks and connecting folks in positions and opportunities to have that impact on students and student success.
Yeah, that's really pivotal, powerful when you can do that, when you can connect those factors together and really improve lives for people out there in the community. It sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, that's definitely my passion.
Fantastic. So was that what motivated you to apply to the Community Leadership Graduate Program? Did you know going into the program that I do want to do something different with my path, but I'm not sure what, or maybe you knew that this is what you wanted to do? What was that journey like?
Yeah, I think for me, I wanted to gain, like I said, more skills to support me in whichever direction I was going to take. I knew I was getting ready to spread my wings and fly away from UMBC after being there for so long. And I wanted some good tools in my toolkit that would further me in supporting the communities and doing community work. And I really wanted to continue to build a network of folks that were doing similar work or similar passions with uplifting the community. And so I thought that this program would be a good fit to lead me with folks in the same direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did UMBC's Community Leadership Graduate Program prepare you for the role that you're in right now?
The Community Leadership Graduate Program at UMBC prepared me for the role that I'm in right now because it really allowed me to get deeper into service and uplifting the community. And so my role as a volunteer engagement specialist, I'm really connecting folks with service opportunities. And so it really helped me get in tune with the community's needs, but then also begin to build a network of folks that are interested in service and really connecting those folks into the work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And did you have, when you were in the program, did you have a favorite course that you took? And if so, what was it and why?
Yeah, so I actually had two, and for similar reasons. So the Community Leadership 101 course, as well as the capstone course. And that was truly because the two professors, Joby and Sally, they were amazing. And they took the class out of the classroom, and that was powerful. We got in the community, we got to speak with community leaders, we got to walk around the community and learn the history. And I think that was just so exciting and enriching for me, because I like to learn by doing as well. And so getting out and not just reading a book or watching a presentation was really empowering, and being in the presence of folks doing such powerful work was really inspiring.
Yeah, and it seems like that's the strength of this program at UMBC, is the fact that it's very hands-on and it's very tuned in to the communities surrounding the UMBC campus. So Baltimore, specifically Baltimore, I've seen photos of the classrooms that you've had out there outside, and it just looks like so fun. Everybody is just, they all get along. You're all walking with big smiles on your faces, walking through neighborhoods and having class right there. And it looked like a park, maybe.
It was great. We got to see so many different spots in Baltimore and learn about, like I said, the history, but then also connect with various folks, whether it be like nonprofit folks or people in the business world, or like working for institutions that are just doing like community work. And it was just so powerful to hear their impact, but then also to see it when you're in the community and feel it. There's something about like that feeling that you get being in those places.
Did you participate in a partnership type of course or a program project when you were in the program?
Yeah, so for actually both of those courses, we got to pick a nonprofit to work with and support in some sort of like capacity building or whatever kind of they had a need for. And I was fortunate enough to work with the same nonprofit for both courses to deepen my connection with them. So I worked with Cherry Hill Strong, which is an organization out of the Cherry Hill community. They're like a quarterback organization. So they're really working to bring in resources and really equip the community with what they need to be a thriving community. And so whether that's bringing in things like grocery stores or other businesses, or land ownership for folks that are from the community, they're just doing really great work and really uplifting the voice of the community. And so it felt like a really good connection for that. So I was able to do a lot of cool projects with them. One was like an Easter giveaway. And so we like bagged up a bunch of Easter baskets and gave them out to the youth in the community, which was a lot of fun.
That sounds like really fun, just spirited fun. And speaking of spirited, what was it like working with your fellow peer students? Everybody comes from a different background, different experiences, and different desires of things that they want to do out there in the community. What was your favorite part of interacting with students and with your fellow students? What did that teach you? What did you take away from that experience?
Yeah, that was actually another part of the program that I really appreciated, because there were so many people that had the same passion of like community development, like community leadership, community support, uplifting the voice of the community, but they all did it in a different way. So some people were really into the housing, or some people were really into different focus groups, whether it be like previously incarcerated folks or different populations. But it was beautiful to see how we all came together around this common mission and common goal, but all had different touches in different areas. And so I was able to learn a lot about how their experiences went and how they interact with the community, and take away a lot of knowledge and tools that I can use in my interactions and moving forward with community work. And so it was really powerful to have that learning community from one another when we all had a common goal but came from different places.
Yeah, you learn a lot that way. I feel like it's any team, everybody can't have the same strengths or the weaknesses, because then it would just be this very static environment. What makes it a dynamic environment is having people with different skill strengths and some weaknesses, so that you can all come together and build each other up. It sounds like that is the experience that you had with the program. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of rich conversation amongst the students during class, which was nice.
Awesome. Now, my question, I love asking this next question, because I feel like it really hones in on the strength of the programs that you study here at UMBC, that students study. What was your greatest takeaway from studying in the UMBC's Community Leadership Graduate Program?
I think my biggest takeaway from the Community Leadership Graduate Program at UMBC was the networks and connections I made with folks. I'm still in contact with people from my class and my courses and still finding ways to work with them. And they're just popping up in organic ways also in work that I'm doing and showing up. And just already having those relationships allows just for the work to go deeper and happen like more quickly and stuff because there's already that established baseline. And so it's really been neat to see how those relationships that were established in the program have grown and expanded out into my professional life outside of UMBC even.
Yeah. From your experience working out there in the community leadership field, what do you think the biggest challenge is that we're facing as a community, as a society? What would you say is the biggest challenge that we all need to be aware of at this point?
That's a big question. So I think for me, the thing on my heart mostly is like racial equity and social justice when it comes to racial equity, and just being aware of how we're showing up every day and what we're doing every day and making sure that we are not perpetuating, but instead dismantling and being an advocate and those things. And I think that leads a lot of my work. And I think like in that too, making connections with folks and not being siloed, because I think there is a lot that the city has to offer and the community and everything, but it's like getting those connections. People don't know what other people are doing. And so really forging those networks and those partnerships and getting in collaboration, because I think we could be more powerful in numbers for sure.
So well stated. Wow. Yes, absolutely. I agree 100% with everything you just said. Is there anything, Rebecca, that we haven't talked about that you think would lend value to this conversation before we end this podcast episode?
Like, I think I've already said how great the program is, but I can't stress it enough. I think it was really, like I said, transformative for me in a sense, because I was able to get a deeper understanding of Baltimore. I'm not from Baltimore, but the program does a good job of laying that foundation of getting a deeper understanding. And though I had been working in these communities for years, some of the things I wasn't aware of and I didn't know. And I think that enlightenment has just really opened up so many like doors in my mind. And I think it's so powerful. And so I would just encourage folks to try it out. And so even if you don't want to go the full master's way, you could always do the certificate program and just try it out. So it was great.
Yeah, program. That's so true. You can just test the water, take one class and see how it goes. For me, that's what I wanted to do. That was my intention. I said it was during COVID. We were on lockdown. I'm like, I had to do something here because I'm going to go crazy, just being still with myself too much. And I said, okay, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to take one class. And I decided to take a class in something that was interesting to me, which is how to do course development. And I took that one course. And of course, I ended up enrolling in the entire master's program, plus a few of the certificate programs. And here I am 3 years later, it's a lifelong learner, like we said before. So what I love to do with each podcast episode is I love to ask some professional development questions, because this podcast really does cater to those people who are looking to develop themselves professionally and personally. So what would you say was the greatest life lesson that you have learned in your life so far?
Yeah, I think this is going to sound a little cliche, but again, I think it's been a theme through what we've been talking about, but it's not what you know, it's who you know, really. And I think relationships are so powerful and we really underestimate them sometimes, especially when we're doing community work. Sometimes we don't think of the community as a resource, or the people in the community of being experts of their own lives, but really building those relationships and hearing what people have to say and what they have to offer, I think it's really about who you know and not necessarily what you know. And that'll really get you far too, I think.
Yeah, it's the relationships that we build. The whole premise of life is building those beautiful connections. That's what has kept us thriving and surviving throughout history. So yes, it's really important to build those connections and nurture those relationships. I completely agree. My last question is, do you have a favorite quote or a favorite book that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I would say my favorite quote in the spirit of service is from Muhammad Ali, and that is, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth."
I got chills. I love that. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thanks for sharing your insights and your experience that you had here at UMBC with us all. It's always wonderful to hear stories of how UMBC has impacted the lives of our students, our graduates, and the surrounding community as a result. So, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you'd like to learn more about our offerings, please do a search for UMBC Community Leadership Graduate Program or click the link in the description below.